me turn it around. Do you have a seat there? I'm good.
You turned it around?
Yep, you're good.
Is it live?
We are live. Rover Sports.
You can read the questions
Here
too.
in Springfield, Pennsylvania. We've just seen a thorough beatdown. Georgia Bulldogs beating the Auburn Tigers. Revenge in the SEC Championship, 28-7. Your thoughts, Spencer?
Last game for Gus Malzahn at Arkansas. Gus Malzahn.
You mean at Auburn?
At Auburn. The first game at Arkansas, and you look at Gus's tenure really in the at Auburn. He had he started out his career with the miracle pick six or the kick six play, and also the prayer at Jordan Hare. And those plays greatly benefited his tenure because he never would have won an SEC championship. He never would have won the SEC at Auburn if not for Trey Matthews and that crazy play that ended up happening. I look at Auburn, I feel a little bad for Auburn because Auburn had to play LSU at Death Valley in the middle of the season. They played Clemson in week 2 when clearly Jarrett Stidham and Chip Lindsey were not on the same page. And then they also had to play Alabama and Georgia while Georgia got to play Georgia Tech and the Kentucky Wildcat football team. So Georgia clearly was more fresh in this game, and Georgia's defense is the best defense in college football. This Georgia team is very reminiscent of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of 2002 with Derek Brooks, John Lynch, Warren Sapp, Roquan Smith, Davin Bellamy, Jonathan Ledbetter. This Georgia defense, I think, is the best defense in college football. Jake Fromm is like your Greg McElroy type of game manager quarterback that's not going to make mistakes and that can execute on third down. He was clutch today. He was given some time, but Jake Fromm doesn't have a heavy plate. He just has to manage the game and hand the ball off to two of the best running backs the SEC has ever seen in Nick Chubb and Sony Michel.
Absolutely. And we're also going to be doing a pregame. Got some great games coming up. Clemson, Miami, I think, is the one I'm looking forward to. Ohio State, Wisconsin. So by tomorrow at this time, we'll not only know the Final Four, but we'll also know where they're playing, what balls they're in. This is a really exciting time in college football. I personally was surprised. The way that Auburn beat down Georgia 21 days ago, I thought they had razzle-dazzle. They just looked flat today. Like you say, it might be a conspiracy. Gus Malzahn didn't bring out anything. They showed up flat. Stidham was running for his life. Obviously, Kerryon Johnson looked hurt most of the first half. He was a gamer, but you look at it. Basically, it was 3 players. It was Stidham, Johnson, and Davis, and they could not beat. Georgia Bulldogs were gang tackling, and they were completely up. It was a home game in the brand new, fresh Atlanta Dome. And they have a lot of momentum, and I think they clearly deserve to be in the Final Four. Obviously, Oklahoma won. They're in the Final Four. So we're looking at it. What are your predictions for the upcoming games?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the game. I think that Auburn and Georgia, I think that these are 2 evenly matched teams. Auburn made so many mistakes today. Give Georgia a lot of credit. They won the line of scrimmage. They were able to run the football. Auburn's whole offense runs for 21, Kerryon Johnson, because against Georgia's corners, against DeAndre Baker, against guys like, Aaron Davis, Dominic Sanders, you're not going to get separation from these cornerbacks. They're just such elite level corners, and Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker have the best defense in college football. So the way to beat Georgia was for Kerryon Johnson to take over the game. At Jordan Hare Stadium, the Bulldogs played a terrible, terrible football game. They had so many, muffed punts. And it wasn't like Auburn's offense was incredible against Georgia. It was that Kerryon Johnson had a great play. They rode the crowd to a victory. Georgia today showed that they are just as good as the Auburn Tigers. Tons of mistakes
Big
from
shout
Auburn
out
today.
from Sharon, who astutely noted that Kerryon Johnson was hurt. He was not at 100%. Was a gamer. Did play. Certainly looking for nice draft position next year in the NFL.
I don't think
he mailed it.
He didn't mail it in at
all.
all.
No, we're not saying he mailed it in. A lot of people wouldn't have played at all. For instance, a guy like Markel Fultz may not have played with his scapular dysfunction, but Kerryon Johnson, despite the shoulder injury, he ran between the tackles, and it wasn't his fault. Basically, Georgia played gang tackling, fantastic defense drawn up. They were blitzing on almost every play, linebackers.
Right.
And you know what? The back end, Stidham was running for his life, and it was a great strategy.
He did a terrible.
Kirby Smart.
Jarrett Stidham did a terrible job today of recognizing blitz pressure. There were a couple of times when he got Georgia to play their hand in the snap count. The guy held the ball way too long. The turnover up 7-0 when Auburn was on the 15-yard line. Him fumbling that football was awful. And then at the end of the half, the ball was on the 40-yard line, and Jarrett Stidham took like a 10-yard sack. And he lost 6 points there, and Auburn could have won the first half. Instead, they lost it 10-7. It could have been maybe 13-7. It could have maybe been 10-0. The momentum was lost in that game because of that. When you play an elite team like Georgia, you can't make those mistakes. 13-7, Kerryon Johnson puts the ball on the ground. You got to give Georgia credit. They're the best defense in college football, best running game in college football, and I think that they have an unbelievable chance to win the national championship this year.
We would have welcomed Sean's Beard, who's certainly a great blogger.
He's tremendous.
And he's one of the first.
He's a Bears fan. He's a hilarious guy. One of the funniest commenters and guys on YouTube. So
absolutely. So the two people we've got Sharon Bowling, who is our she's our rover, is always there for us. We've got Sean's Beard. He made a comment, just breaking news. Scott Frost goes to Nebraska. What do you think about that? The old ball coach, the young quarterback goes to Nebraska, trying to rescue. We'll use a word which is in vogue: dumpster fire. Mike Riley, Bob Diaco, certainly worst Nebraska team of all time this year. Overall worst coaching. Terrible. And now Scott Frost is going back to try to reclaim some of the greatness from the old Nebraska Cornhusker days.
It's just an amazing story. Scott Frost, he just gave, he just had a son, and now he goes back home to Lincoln to reunite with Tom Osborne in Nebraska. This is a guy in Scott Frost that, initially, he actually, during his first few years of his college career, I believe in 1996, he didn't go to Nebraska. I think he went to like another college, maybe a community college outside of state, or I think he went out west for college, maybe to Oregon actually. And then the fan base got on Scott Frost because Scott Frost was a great, high school recruit in the state of Nebraska. And then he came back home to Nebraska because the fans, they really razzed him when he didn't go to Nebraska in 1996. But he came back as an upperclassman, and he ended up winning the Orange Bowl to win a national title in '98. So I'm so happy for Husker Nation. They finally got their guy. It's goosebump worthy. It almost made you cry. And it's hilarious, Dad, kind of. I feel a little bad for Scott Frost, but during the game, I don't know if you saw this, but the ESPN or the ABC, they ran the ticker, and during the UCF game, they said Scott Frost has officially been, taking the job at Nebraska. And this was still while Memphis was playing the UCF Scott Frost team today. So that was pretty funny. And then McShay asked him about it right after the game. Really cool. I got to give a lot of credit to Bill Moose. He's a hell of an athletic director. Bill Moose is unfreaking believable. He came in from Washington State, and Bill Moose deserves all the credit in the world for this hire.
Question.
Home run.
Does Miami have a chance to beat Clemson tonight?
Absolutely they do. Turnover chain. Miami got their loss out of the way last week. They're playing with house money. I would love to see it. It would be so much fun to see Mark Richt win a conference championship on the same day that his former team does. I think that they have a great chance. I think both Wisconsin and Miami, I think these are one-possession games. I think these are going to be incredible football games. Bruce, I see Ohio State winning in the same way Michigan State beat Iowa, like a 2-minute drill to break Wisconsin's heart. What do you think? If you had to predict Ohio State-Wisconsin, what do you think?
I'm rooting for Wisconsin in the game. Mm-hmm. I just think that state and that team certainly needs it. Ohio State's had plenty of wins. I'm a Penn Stater, so I've never been an Ohio State guy. But unfortunately, my prediction is Ohio State by 7.
I hope that Nick Saban gets to play his understudy in the Sugar Bowl, Alabama and Georgia. That would be great because Georgia's number 1, Clemson's number 2, Oklahoma's number 3, and then I believe, though, Ohio State's going to be number 4 after tonight, and it's going to be Ohio State, Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which will be exciting, but Georgia will blow the doors off of Ohio State. And Clemson, Oklahoma, the rematch of the Orange Bowl, that is going to be a spectacular game, really defense versus offense, and I think Clemson's going to overwhelm Oklahoma again if I had to select it.
Last question we have. Is there a scenario where Alabama sneaks into the 4th spot at this point? Your thoughts?
I don't think so. I think Ohio State's going to get in over them. Unfortunately for Saban. I would like to see Nick Saban versus Kirby Smart because Alabama, I think, is a better football team than Ohio State. But tonight, Ohio State gets the primetime game on Fox. Ohio State, the brand, Urban Meyer, winning tonight. The lasting memory of the committee will be Ohio State hoisting the Big Ten championship as the confetti will fall and Gus Johnson will say, Urban Meyer's the champion. Urban Meyer wins the Big Ten. I think that's too much momentum, and I think Ohio State gets in tomorrow morning.
We want to give a big shout-out to Sean's Beard, who at this hour is, like us, I'm surprised everybody's actually watching the games, but he's a very loyal rover.
I think people will go back and watch this game. I want to also give a shout-out to a guy that I look up to in the YouTube community and a guy that we can call kind of a friend of the program. He's having one of the best days of his life, and that is Uncle Lou.
Uncle Lou, Derek Raycroft. Big ups to him. Big shout-out.
Derek, yeah.
Huge Georgia Bulldogs fan. I know he's making a lot of noise. He's got his garage door open. He's got his colored lights on. The neighbors, the cops have already showed up 10 times.
Do you think Uncle
Lou doesn't care?
Do you think Uncle Lou wants his name Derek Raycroft out on the interwebs, or what? Or do you think
know why
he wants to keep
doesn't
it
care? You know why?
I tried to not say it, but
you know what it is. What I did is
I'm just kind of curious.
Oh, I'll tell you my answer to that.
Yeah.
If you Google Uncle Lou, Derek Raycroft pops up.
Well, it's
so if
on
you wanted to use
on Facebook.
Well, you know what? I think tonight he doesn't care if you call him anything. You could call him Uncle Stu, and he won't care because we want to give big ups to Uncle Lou.
We want to give big
Enjoy
ups.
The dogs.
He's awesome.
The dogs are going to the Final Four, brother.
He's freaking awesome. And you know what, Uncle Lou, if he ever has a qualm with this live stream, we'll take it down. But in the meantime, enjoy the live stream. Uncle Lou, it is your day in the sun, man. Congratulations to Uncle Lou.
And the dogs are in the sun.
Bulldogs, man.
It will be live on later.
Kirby Smart.
We're going to be doing a late night. We're going to do a Saturday night late night.
Kirby Smart is Nick Saban 2.0. He's that good. Go ahead. Close it down.